Hi everyone and welcome back to my channel. I'm Sharon and this is Bailey and he's joining me on today's vlog. This is really just a quick introduction to an interview I'm going to show you with a good friend of mine, Yasmina. Yasmina is an amazing yoga instructor and she is going to be talking to you guys today about anxiety and how she used yoga to help her deal with her anxiety. This was an amazing interview. It's a two-part interview, so there's going to be another part to it next week in which she talks about how she went from being a yoga instructor, which she still is, to also being a resort manager for Vale, who you may well have heard of. He is the juice master and he runs juicing retreats in Portugal, and she joined him there, so she'll be talking about that in the next part of the video. But in this one, it's just about anxiety and coping mechanisms she used to help her get through it. I hope you enjoy. Thank you. Hi Yasmina, how are you doing?
Very well,
So
thank
lovely
you.
to see you again.
And you too.
You started out in the PR industry and then you made a transition, a complete change around into the wellness industry and also becoming a yoga instructor.
I had a long career in, well, I say long, it's over 15 years, so working my way up the ladder. So from the outside in, it looked like a very successful career. I was getting to do lots of amazing things that I never would have if I hadn't been working in PR, particularly in the travel industry. But it's a very demanding role and I was working a lot of hours, and unfortunately you are kind of on call 24/7, particularly for some of the clients I was working for. And when I moved in-house and I was doing more crisis communication, and then I really was on 24-hour call. So anything that goes wrong, you know, PR are one of the first port of calls.
So a lot of pressure there.
Together communication, yes. So I really was burning the candle at both ends, and started to suffer from stress. Anxiety as well was a big trigger factor to looking into, you know, my wellness and perhaps, you know, wake up call to really take care of myself. And I really did work hard, play hard, and didn't take much time to recharge my batteries.
Where do you think the anxiety specifically came from?
It's a funny one because I didn't feel like an anxious person. I'm not. I'm quite laid back. I'm quite relaxed. And that's how I kind of view myself. I'm not a planner. I really like to go with the flow. I realise that actually I suppress a lot of my stress. So it's internally kind of builds up. So I get more physical signs of stress as opposed to perhaps losing my temper or crying or showing emotions. It really does affect my stomach, my indigestion, suffering from IBS. And then it showed itself in anxiety and having panic attacks, which I had no idea what they were. And they started probably 15 years ago. And at that point, they weren't really talked about. You know, the panic attacks and anxiety didn't really get much attention. So for quite some time, I had no idea what was going on. I thought I was dying. And that's how severe it feels. And it was also very alienating, really lonely, because you feel like you're going crazy.
Was it finally, although you're having this amazing career with your PR, was that when it came to a point where you thought, although, you know, it's really exciting, it was very physically and mentally demanding, and you got to a point where you thought, hang on a minute, my health needs to come first?
It was a bit of a slower transition than that. To deal with my anxiety, I was looking at alternative ways. I really didn't want to take medication, and I know that really, you know, works for some people, and in some cases, I think, you know, that's necessary. But for me, I really wanted to find alternatives. So I looked into. I started with reflexology actually, which was wonderful and really helped me. And it was just being able to have some time of calm. And you know, it's such a cycle that you get in where you're constantly stressed, and whether that's from your job or you know, the more stressed you are, the more stressed you feel, the more you feel anxious, the less you sleep, the more anxious you feel. So it just kind of builds up and gets worse and worse. So reflexology allowed me an hour to go and sleep, and that's all I used to do. Was literally I'd go there and fall asleep and feel like I'd had a solid sleep. You know, no broken. I wouldn't have broken sleep. I wouldn't have dreams about being stressed. It was just an hour to recuperate. So that led me to also find yoga. And the first time I took a yoga class, I finished the class and I remember almost being tearful because I was like, oh my God, I didn't think about my phone. I was addicted, as a lot of us are, looking at emails constantly. You know, we are on call 24-hour if you are that way inclined. You know, I wouldn't leave the office and then not look at my emails till the next day. I wasn't saving lives, but, you know, I took it to that extreme that I would constantly check my emails throughout the evening. So I was never really switching off. And I remember thinking, oh my God, I've had an hour where I haven't thought of anything. I haven't been stressed. And more important, I've just focused on myself. And how I was breathing was, if there's any gift that I have given myself, that was learning how to breathe properly. It was almost like I'd found a treasure trove, because anxiety, you do just constantly hyperventilate. And there's a direct correlation between your breath and mind. So just learning how to breathe slowly really transformed my mental health. And that's all it was for many, many years. It was a time during the week where I knew I could go and switch off. And because of bad posture, I had also started to get scoliosis of the spine. So I used to go, oh, I know what will relax me, I'll go for a massage. It was the worst thing I could ever do as someone who was stressed and anxious, because I used to lie there and think of the million of things that I needed to do. It would stress me out even more. I'd be like, oh my God, I've paid for this. I should really be enjoying. Everyone says how relaxing this is. And I would just, and I think I had that kind of entrepreneurial, perhaps, mentality, which I think has also led me to where I am today, that I'm always thinking of ideas. And I think that's part of working in PR. It is that creative, what's the next thing? And so my brain was just wired that way. So a massage for me was just lying still when I could have been doing something productive. I actually took a sabbatical between jobs and went to do my teacher training in yoga. And really I did that because I knew I wanted to go deeper for my own practice. I knew how much it had helped me and really transformed my life. So I still loved working in PR. And it enabled me to be able to cope with working in PR. It gave me that time every week, you know, and it started becoming then a daily practice. And I started getting more into meditation and just really working on my breath.
Do you find that controlling breathing is a good way to help reduce anxiety?
Yeah, it's the way. And there's scientific proof now. So in yoga, a big part of one of the pillars of yoga is pranayama, which is breathing techniques. And scientific research now has caught up with this yogic philosophy and showed that there is a direct correlation between our thoughts, our mind, and our breath. So a fast-paced breath really triggers and stimulates your brain. And the moment you start to slow things down, your thoughts slow down too. And it's pretty much impossible to have a slow breath and a fast racing, anxious mind.
I guess it's also a form of control, isn't it? Because if you feel like you can't control the things around you, then it's an opportunity to control this one thing.
And I think anxiety is just you feel completely out of control. That's the problem. You're completely out of your depth. And I think one of the other things about anxiety, and particularly for me, is that on the surface, my life looked amazing. And that's what made me feel even more crazy. And I went to my doctor and I was like, look, I don't know what's happening, but I know how lucky I am. I've got an amazing family. I've got friends that I love. You know, I have a great job. I'm so blessed, but yet I just need some help and I don't know what it is. It makes you feel crazy because you're like, I have to be crazy. Am I losing my mind? Because I am so blessed. And I think you then just have these two completely conflicting emotions, and both are so real that then you feel very unstable. And actually, you know, I now can see that in fact I was pouring, as if, you know, if you had a cup, an analogy, you know, pouring water into that cup. And what I had been doing is just pouring and pouring more water until it overflowed. So it wasn't necessarily that that point in my life was particularly stressful. It was a continued decade of things that I had just covered over. I'll deal with that later, but had been adding to my cup, and then it overflowed. And I was like, where did that come from? Well, actually, it came from 10 years of burying stressful incidents or grief or whatever it was. And I only realised that
So this propelled you into wanting to not only make a difference to yourself, but to wanting to extend that to other people.
And that's exactly what it was. I realised that so many people I knew, and, you know, just doing my research on anxiety and stress, particularly in the corporate world, you know, once I started speaking about it, and like I mentioned at first, it was something that no one spoke about. And then when I had found how I could cope with it, then I felt like I could start opening up. And it just was with a couple of people, and I couldn't believe the response I was getting. That so many, in a positive way, but also in a way with people saying, I can totally relate, and oh my God, you know, I feel the same way. And so I really wanted to go and learn, to deepen my yoga practice for sure. To learn, I realised there was so much more than the physical side of things, which is why a lot of people kind of get into yoga, and, you know, myself included. I knew there was so much more to it, and I wanted to learn about that.
Because you believe in more of a kind of a yoga mentality, and we've talked about this before when we've met up, how you talk about the fact that it's not enough just to sit on a mat, do your 1 hour yoga, and then just go back into a crazy life. Because actually, although that can help you for that hour, it's about developing this mentality of mindfulness, of calm, of getting control of your mind in all areas of your life, and perhaps looking at ways you can make changes in your life so that you have more balance.
Absolutely, and it's, you know, taking yoga off the mat. And it's simple things like gratitude, you know, not just being grateful for that time at the end of my practice when, or if I start my practice, I always include gratitude in it, and perhaps a prayer. And it doesn't have to be religious, it doesn't have to have, it's just, you know, sitting with yourself and sitting with your thoughts and your aspirations. So, you know, I can sit there and, you know, in the morning and think about my list of gratitude, which I always do. But you can say, okay, today I'm going to be happy. But you can have that thought, but actually, do you feel it? Does it translate? No. So what's really important and key, I think, is, you know, when I'm feeling grateful, when I'm thinking about being grateful or how grateful I am, I need to connect with that feeling. So not just have the thought of, I'm so grateful I've got a family. What feelings does that bring? It brings feelings of love, it brings feelings of happiness, and all of a sudden I close my eyes and I'm almost high on those feelings, because the thought alone doesn't do anything. And perhaps then I'll make it more particular. Okay, so what am I so grateful about my family? Oh, my mum made me a cup of tea. Or, you know, my husband held my hand when we were walking through the park and it was a beautiful day. Like, those small things, what feelings do they bring about? So not just having a thought, and it's so easy to say, oh, I'm grateful for my family, but what does that actually mean, and how does it make you feel? And there's research as well that, you know, all of the research, you know, backs up people who are happy in life. You know, what makes people happy? And they've looked at people from varying different backgrounds, very successful careers, all the money they could ever wish for, and then people who are extremely poor, and then those perhaps that have a terminal illness. And what makes the person happy is gratitude. and being grateful for what you do have regardless of your situation. So some of the people, when you look from the outside in, should be the happiest because they have the house,
they have the money
on a Caribbean island, they've got the money, they've got, you know, 4 holidays a year, but actually they're miserable. And social media is wonderful in so many ways, but now I think we have this added comparison. Where you wake up in the morning, and I've banned myself from doing it because I was totally guilty. I wake up in the morning and check social media and I see what other people are doing. I'm like, oh my God, they've been up for 2 hours. They've been to the gym. They've baked a cake. Who are these people? And I'm sitting here, you know, still got sleep in my eye, looking at my Instagram, thinking how rubbish I am at, you know, life. And you know, it's not a true reflection, and it's such an unhealthy way to start my day. And then I'm going to try and meditate. You know, I've had so many people saying, oh, you're so lucky, or I wish I could do that. And anyone can do it. I'm not special. I haven't done anything special. I haven't, you know, completely changed the rules. But what perhaps they don't know is the amount I've worked to get to where I am now. And you know, after doing my teacher training, I worked 2 years juggling, teaching yoga and working in a very busy job. And I was working 7 days a week. And for 8 months, I was working 7 days a week. And I'm not just talking about office, I'm talking about I would go into the office and then I would teach yoga in the evening as well. So I was doing 2 jobs Monday to Friday and then working weekends too. But I needed that to then be able to leave my job and know that I could pay my mortgage, that, you know, I wanted this. I knew if I could, it would never be that bad. However stressed I was, I knew that this was something I really wanted because it was so much easier to give up. And I know there are people who did my yoga teacher training, and as soon as we finished, they quit their jobs. As well when I studied nutrition and health coaching. And, you know, it was a big wake-up call, and it became very stressful because all of a sudden it's the sole money earner. It's not fun anymore. And they've gone back to jobs and never done it again.
I'm feeling disillusioned, no doubt.
Feeling completely disillusioned. So, you know, there's 2 sides to it. Yes, my life is amazing. I'm extremely blessed, and I do totally appreciate it. But I think you have to make sacrifices, and I sacrificed my social life for quite some time. And, you know, I was, again, burning the candle at both ends because I was working a lot. But it was something that I loved and I believed in, and that's why I wanted to teach yoga, because I knew how much it had helped me. And for me, when I take a class and someone comes up to me afterwards and I get some kind of feedback that suggests it has helped them, it doesn't matter how many hours I put in that week. That's why I wanted to do it. That's why I do it. The moment I stepped on the mat and I was taking a class, I felt alive, and I just wanted to help people the way it had helped me. I felt that I owed yoga that in a way, to kind of spread that benefit that I got, almost like karma yoga, they say, in a way, you know, passing on the good deed.
So that is the end of the video, certainly this part of the video. I'm going to be showing part 2 of the video, which is going to be about the Jason Vale juicing retreats and how Yasmina's been involved with those. That will be next week on Friday. So if you would like to see that video, then please do hit the subscribe button below so that you get notifications on that. I really hope it's helped for anybody who is suffering from anxiety, and maybe it's encouraged you to try out yoga. If it has, do leave a note in the comments below. Thank you very much. Take care. Bye.